We'll now call the city August 21st, 2024 City Council meeting to order. We're coming out of closed session. Any reportable actions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No reportable action. Item 1 was continued. Council discussed, but was continued to the next closed session. Item 2, there was no action. Council was updated. Item 3, conference with labor negotiator. No reportable action. Council was updated. Item 4, anticipated litigation. There was no decision was made to initiate litigation.
Thank you. Now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead you all. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now have Aaron Diaz, New Beginnings Church. Hi, Aaron. Nice to see you. Been a while.
It's good to see you too. Hi.
Give us a good one. We need it.
All right. I'll bring the best. Oh, no pressure. All right. If you would bow your heads with me. Dear Lord, what a beautiful sound it is to hear conversation and laughter. Lord, we thank you that you're in this place for the breath in our lungs, Lord, and the ability to do business. I pray that you would bring wisdom and guidance in this room to each individual, Father. Lord, I pray that things would be heard, the thoughts of others, Lord, the cooperation it takes to run such a wonderful city. And Lord, I ask that you would lead and guide the council in making decisions for the city of Norco, Father God. One of the best places to live in this state and in this country, God. And I believe that's because, Lord, you have put good leaders here. So bless this time, this meeting, and everything that you're doing here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Aaron. So tonight, I want to introduce the new Event Services Supervisor for Ingalls Event Center, Patrick Wright. With nearly 40 years of experience in the event management industry, Patrick joins us with an exceptional depth of knowledge and a proven track record. Patrick's impressive career includes significant roles at renowned multipurpose event facilities such as the Fairplex, the LA County Fair Association, the Pasadena Civic Auditorium and Conference Center, and the Valley Forge Convention Center. His extensive background covers a wide range of facilities operations, including food and beverage, parking, environmental services, and more. We are excited to welcome Patrick to the city of Norco and look forward to the expertise and innovation he will bring to our team. We'd like you to say a couple of words. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very excited to be joining the team. It's a wonderful center we have up there in the foothills. Beautiful facility. And I think it's good timing that I'm starting now. We have a very busy schedule over the next 2 weeks with the rodeo and the fair. So I'll be able to be immersed in our operations, and I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
So now, somebody who's near and dear to a lot of us, she's been around for a little while, at least 2 or 3 years. We're going to be recognizing Judy Bonham for her outstanding achievement. I'm going to come down to the podium. So, what do you got here? So you're giving me awards?
It looks like I'm giving him an award.
That's interesting. Give me that. Jeez. So we're kind of going out of order just a little bit. So the city council, you're into horses, right? Is that true? I heard that rumor. The city council would like to recognize an outstanding achievement by one of Norco's long-standing residents, Judy Bonham. At this year's American Quarter Horse Association convention, Ms. Bonham was awarded the 2023 Professional Horseman Lifetime Achievement Award. She has been It's nice to see her not delighted.
I am delighted. I was
Well, there's more to come, so just. She has been a professional horsewoman since 1995 and was recognized in 2008 as the AQHA's most valuable professional. Judy has been an important member of the HQHA and to our community, and I want to present you with this award. And so how come we have two of these? Oh, gotcha. We got two of these. All right, you're gonna get two. What'd you do, print up your own? So I'll tell you what, before I give you these, I'm gonna have you say a couple words. Now you can talk.
Hi, I'm Judy Bonham, as you know, and I've been awarded many wonderful things, and my town has recognized me for a lot of that, and I really appreciate it, and I love this town and these people and the horses that they have here. And thank you, Kevin. And I was hometown hero last year, and it was such an honor. And they all set that up.
So this is what you got last year? You
I
that
got,
yourself?
I brought that. That was this year.
So what this is the Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Judy K. F. Bonham, 2023, HQHA. Congratulations. But then the better one is the one from Norco. That's right, and you get this spiffy little thing you can wear around. It's nice. The Norco City Council recognizes you as the 2022. Oh, this is Parade of Lights. Okay.
Really, he's going to come to the party, and then we'll all be there.
So you get two spiffy little medals. It's nice. So you got that one before.
This one.
No,
That's
somebody else.
from
This is
the
your new
hometown
one.
hero. Yeah.
So this one, the Norco City Council applauds you for making a positive difference in the community and congratulates you on being recognized by the American Quarter Horse Association. This is from your city council. Thank you for all you do. You are amazing. And you're still riding, right?
I'm still riding.
Still riding. Holy cow. You just turned 50? 80? No. Let's get a photograph. Let's hold all this stuff up. Need help, Judy? I don't think she needs help at all. We're gonna get one more. This is the official one.
It just took them so long to recognize you.
You know what? It just goes to show. My mom's 91. They finally recognized her. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Oh.
That's my twin sister.
Oh my goodness, your twin sister. I think she's taller.
Just so you all know, after 7, if you're not taller than me, you're a midget. So, my nephew, he's almost taller than me.
Is this your nephew? This your family?
My grandnephew. Look at this. Measure up.
So he's 8 years old.
Yeah. Are you 8 or 9? 8. 8.
Oh, it looks like height jumped a generation. Thank you very much.
They're all taller.
Nice to meet you all. Now, the Norco City Council, along with Rural, would like to recognize a local business for their exceptional service and continued community support. The 6th Street Deli is family-owned and operated and has been a staple in the community for over 20 years. This is long, long, long overdue. This is a company that has done so much for the city of Norco. It's been a meeting place for decades, and they have contributed so much. So I'm going to have Mr. Wriggler, come on up, say a couple of words. And who's here from the deli? There she is. Wow, you clean up good. Look at you. Yeah, and I remember you when you were like 2 feet tall. So, John, why don't you say a couple of words? All right, four.
Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, and Norco citizens, we're all here to celebrate 6th Street Deli. Yeah. Where everybody knows your name. I moved to Norco in 2015, long after most of you did, mainly because of my wife, Kathy. Kathy told me about the wonderful restaurant, and I simply couldn't comprehend what she was talking about until I ate there. Everyone had their favorite sandwich. I'm a 2, Kathy's a 25 on squaw bread. Have a deviled egg or 4. Connie and Charlie sport a chicken salad sandwich on Saturday afternoon. It just goes on and on and on. Sonia knew everyone. We all watched Owen grow up, and Owen is her trophy child, just so you know. The deli gladly supported every organization in town. It was the main meeting great place. We all just knew to meet at the deli. I knew this would be another one of hundreds of plaques on the walls. You walk in that place and there's no room left. That's to celebrate the greatness, but just how do we stop? You can be sure Sonia will call you by name next time you come in. We will see you all there. Sonia, your hard work pays off. And this is from rural NHA, veterans serving veterans. It goes on and on and on. I'm getting out of the way.
Watch that cord.
What's it going to do?
It's a snake. So, oh, you got more? Oh.
Not done yet. Now we're out of your way.
And you two get a spiffy little button like that. Very cool. The Norco City Council appreciates 6th Street Deli for its contributions and continued support of the community. It doesn't even begin to describe the things you and your family do. And I can't believe how tall you are. I've known you since you were 2 years old. You know that. Oh my God. Hey, well, let's get a photograph. You guys get in the middle? You get over there. You guys come over here with me?
Oh, let's put you in.
They dropped your plaque, Wriggler. All right. Now I got to make sure. So I'm going to bring all those people out there in here.
Just the coaches and the players.
Well, okay. That means everybody. Come on in. We'll have you line up right along here. Holy cow. Come on in. You can line up in the front. You guys are going to have to spread out a little bit. Hey, you know what? That was really a pathetic round of applause for champions. There you go. There's a lot of people out there, so. And I know parents want to get photos and all that kind of stuff, so. So maybe let the audience see you. They're much more important than the people behind me and myself. So parents, are you going to take photos? Are you going to sort of edge in? The city clerk's going to be mad at me, but if you want to take pictures, feel free. All right, this is actually near and dear to my heart. I actually was on the board of directors for Norco Girls Softball for 7 years. That was a long 7 years. All right. You got your cameras ready? So let's give them one more round of applause. So last, but certainly not least, the City Council would like to recognize the Norco Girls Softball 8 and under and 12 and under teams for their achievements. Both all-star teams had quite the journey starting in May as they experienced some losses, but came out on top with many triumphs. They played valiantly in each of their tournaments, and with the 8 and under coming in 5th out of 44 teams, and the 12 and under coming in 5th out of 41 teams, they ended up at the state games in San Diego. That's a big deal, where the 12 and under team finished as one of the top 5 teams in the entire state of California. The amount of time the girls, the coaches, and parents put in over the summer paid off, and we want to congratulate you all for your achievements this summer and for all of your hard work as a team. Congratulations, girls. That is awesome. And now I'm going to have the NGSL president, Andrew Warm, to come on up. Now, we're not going to present certificates. We're just going to give them to the coaches because we want Berwin has to go to bed by 9:30. So we have to get out of here. But Andrew, can you come on up? Is Andrew here? Why weren't you up here with your team? Oh, they're not your team. But you can take credit for them, right? No, I'm not. Here you go. Watch this. Why don't you come around here and talk so everybody can see? Don't step over that. There you go. All right. And wanted to have a few words to say?
All right. Well, I didn't have much of a speech to prepare, but thank you guys for coming out. I just want to congratulate these girls and these coaches on some great games, some wins, some losses, determination. You know, sometimes these girls were playing games, 4 to 5 games a day in 100-degree heat. And it shows a lot for them, as young as they are, and the coaches for coaching them and having great success. I also want to mention that every tournament they went to, they represent Norco Girls Softball and the city of Norco with class. I had many teams come up to me throughout Southern California and, you know, show that, hey, these girls are good sportsmanship. They're cheering on everybody, and it was a very, very, very great experience, and I'm very, very proud of them, you know, on behalf of Norco Girls Softball. Thank you.
So now, is it true that the 12 and unders played in cowboy hats? I guess not. Anyway, girls, thank you. What's that you show? There you go. So thank you very much. We're really proud of you. You've kind of shown that Norco is not just Horsetown, USA, but it's youth sports capital of California. And you've just proved it. So thank you again. Thank you. And you've got certificates with your coaches. Coaches and parents, thank you so much for supporting the kids. I like to say that if you keep the kids on the field, you keep them out of the backs of patrol cars. So congratulations. Thank you. You're all welcome to stay for the meeting if you want. And don't feel bad if you have to leave. Thank you. Congratulations. And if council can stand up behind them. Hey, come on in here. Oh, except, come on back here. Get in the well. How you doing?
Say, guys. I like your hat.
Come in front of us. Go in front of the coach. Oh, shit.
Girls, look here, right here. Smile. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Marcy's too tall. Yeah, Marcy's like my height. Guys, Emily's
Thank you, girls. You bet. My pleasure. Yeah, I love this stuff. You bet. Thank you guys for what you do. Thank you. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. It's called winging it. While we're just sort of waiting for the room to clear out, I want to take a moment to introduce our interim city manager, Lisette Free. Stand up, wave at people. There you go. She will serve double duty as also our financial officer for the city of Norco. And welcome. So, next, we're going to call upon, and this is something, and I have to point this out, Ron Snow is sitting right there in the second row. Ron is the former city historian for the city of Norco. And almost single-handedly for 25 years, Ron Snow protected the things that are now under Amy's control over in the historic room. Had Ron not been doing what he was doing for 25 years, hundreds of artifacts would have disappeared. He protected them for 25 years, and he deserves a round of applause. So now we have the new generation, Amy Wheeler, who's the administrative aide for the Heritage Room, and she's going to talk a little bit about this amazing thing that's been created between her and Dana and Amanda and her crew, and so it's wonderful.
Good evening, Mayor Bash and council members and community members. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to give you an update on the Heritage Room. I'm pleased to report that our remodel is complete. We have had new flooring, new paint, new technology. It's all been installed. We were able to pull it off in time to be one of the stops on the Norco Ranch tour at the end of June. We were thrilled to have so many visitors come in and see our new layout, our new displays, and to see firsthand the difference from before to now. We have purchased new technology that has been installed and is now functioning. This includes a ZAR scanner, which enables us to scan newspapers, books, larger items. We also have a photo booth, a light booth, a digital camera. It allows us to properly digitize archival items in our collection. And most importantly, we have a new software program. It's called Catalog It. It enables us to preserve digitally all of the items in our collection. As we scan and upload this into the software program, it allows us to provide a record management system that we didn't have before. Previously, everything was done in an Excel spreadsheet. While organized, that's great, but you can't make that visually appealing. You can't push that out to your stakeholders, to your community members, to council members. You cannot see what we were doing previously. So with the fair coming quickly, we are planning to open the room on Saturday, August 31st from 11 to 1, and we have fair displays in place. But I'd like to take a moment and just show you on the screens some of the things that we have scanned in. One of the things about all of this new equipment is it's a learning curve. We have to learn the new equipment. As you're scanning, there's lighting issues. There's just terminology, like when you're scanning and you're determining what record group are you putting in. Are you going to spell out Norco Valley Fair? Are you going to put in NVF? All these little things have to be determined. So we're putting together a training guide. So when our volunteers come in, it is automatically, systematically determined. These are the steps that you follow. So everything that comes into our system is organized and it's manageable, so then we can push it out. The wonderful thing about this system is moving forward as a city, if we choose to, we can push these items out and they can be displayed on our website, which is something we've never been able to do before, which should gather community engagement. So if you don't mind looking at the screen for a moment, what's up here now are some of the fair books that we have scanned in. And I'll just pick one here. And as you can see here, this is, the 2018 Norco Fair Book. Over here, it tells you what the theme of the fair was, country fun for everyone. The context here, again, is it's a Norco Fair Book, the dates of the fair. We've tagged it so we can search for it under Norco Fair or Norco Valley Fair. It tells you who inputted this item. It tells you the date that it was put in. And then there's a variety of other things we can tag with it. This is just a small snapshot of things we can put in. Like I said, we just were going to give you a little snapshot of things for the fair since that's coming up. Fair buttons are always something that people are interested in. Here's a few of the ones that we have scanned in. This is a fan favorite because it does show the room, the building that we're in. And these will be on display while we're open. And this is something that we never had access to before. So the beauty of this is not only does it preserve it digitally, but when someone is looking for an item, we can just search it real quick. We can pull it up. We have a photo. We can push it out. And we'll be able to put in the location of that item in our room. So this is all an advancement from where we were before. So we just want to give you a little display of what we're working on. And thank you for all of your support as we move forward. And we hope you see that we're trying to meet the vision that the city has for this room. And we're so very thankful for all the support we've been given from the council, from IT, from facilities management, from everybody, because we've gone from where we were to where we are today, and we're just excited where we're going. So thank you very much.
Does council have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. It's and what's really good about this is that it preserves and protects in a way our historic overlay.
Yes.
And it's because all the evidence is there. So it's very exciting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. We'll now have city council reports.
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Robin.
Our last Northwest Mosquito Vector and Control District did not have a quorum, so nothing to report at this time.
Councilmember Hannah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, RTA for several years have been trying to come up with new different powered buses to go along with the Clean Air Act. They've been running on clean natural gas. And they thought about going to electric, but that was going to cost too much because the bus could only run so far on the battery, and they'd have to have a replacement bus there. So we've come up with the idea to switch over to hydrogen. And the discussion last week was they're going to build a hydrogen producing plant at both facilities, the one over here on Blaine Street and the one at Hemet. So the buses will be able to pull in there and fuel up with the new hydrogen. We'll be getting new buses and everything, but it's expensive to buy the buses, cheaper than buying the electric buses, but in the long run, they're abiding by the Clean Air Act and everything, and have their own plant there making the hydrogen at the facilities. And that's all I have at this time, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing to report at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just going to give an update on SoCal Edison update. Congressman Calvert and Bill O'Saley arranged for us to meet with the president of SoCal Edison and the CEO. We met with about 15 representatives from SC Edison. This is regarding the high transmission lines. I don't know how fruitful it was. Congressman Calvert and Billy Asaley, they were very firm with Edison. Congressman Calvert actually left it that you've been warned that you're putting in something that we consider to be dangerous. It kind of started off strange because the president of SC Edison said, in 20 years it's not going to matter anyway, the view shed, if we don't solve global warming. And it was an odd comment. I almost told him, I said, well, why are banks doing 30-year loans? But I didn't say that. One of the things that we're trying to do is they want to place a 180-foot tower on top of one of the highest points in the northeast quadrant.
I've gone to the police department, a lot of people, and it's been 12 years, and I lost hearing in this ear. I'm going to lose this one too. And I have proof of what she does. I have a meter from Europe that measures it. Anybody else at this point, our society, how violent it is, would have done something already. The only thing I could do is get a lawyer, and then if I lose my house, I'm homeless. It's heartbreaking, I can't sleep in my own house. 3, 4 in the morning. This morning she started from 1 till 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm exhausted, It's just me living there, but my dog. I don't know what else to do, where else to turn.
Alma, could you assist him maybe in this situation for code enforcement? Yeah, noise. Do me a favor, just go talk to this, give her your address and your phone number, and let's see what happens. Okay? So talk to Alma right there.
Okay.
And she's in charge of
Your
code enforcement.
receptionist that works at the front, I believe her name is, it starts with an S, I can't remember, I'm very tired.
Sophia.
I talked to her today, she knows exactly what I was talking about.
Okay, well then, give her your information, and then she'll get with Sophia, and they will talk to code enforcement.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
fine.
Nice to see you again. I'm sorry you're going through this.
I don't want any problems with nobody, I just want
Got
peace
it.
and serenity,
Thank you, sir.
It's hard for the police to come out, it's hard for them to really grasp what's going on.
Okay.
In the past, they've told me, yeah, she's doing it, but it's hard to prove. But she's doing it, doesn't matter, She's a veterinarian, so she's very smart, horse doctor. It's kind of like if you've ever seen The Accountant, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
Okay. Well, see Alma right there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Okay, our next speaker is Bonnie Slager.
Good evening, everybody. Just a reminder, fair buttons, the fair's coming up, and fair buttons are going fast, so be sure and get your fair buttons, $15 ahead of time, $20 at the gate. The second thing is Candidates Night is coming up September 19th, and I hope we'll have a big crowd there, having 6 people running for city council for 3 seats. It is very important that people come to Candidates Night, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Our next speaker is Holly McMillan.
Hi, Holly. How are you?
I'm excellent. Good evening,
Long
Mayor.
time no talk to.
I know, it's been forever since I've seen any of you people. Thank you to the members of City Council who have given some guidance and encouragement for me to speak tonight. As everybody knows, the 2028 Equestrian Olympic Games are going to be tentatively held at Galway Downs, and that opens up an opportunity for Norco Horsetown USA with 80,000 equestrian fans who will be looking for events and things to do, hands-on horse experience when competition is not happening. With the millions of dollars that are being invested in these off-venue events from LA 28, so that the communities around the Olympic Games have long-lasting tourism, not devastated by millions of people coming through, and then afterwards we've heard the stories from other cities where they didn't get anything from it, it actually cost their cities. LA 28 is making a point of making sure that's not going to happen in California. I want to thank the Norco's Horsemen Association, Rural, Mounted Posse, Norco Cowgirls, every farm, ranch, horse business I have spoken to, our restaurants. Everyone is saying this is an opportunity for Norco to really make ourselves the premier equestrian destination for 2028 and for these 80,000 equestrian enthusiasts, but going past that, bringing in maybe other organizations and groups to use our equestrian facilities, build our ranches, our training facilities. We are Horsetown USA. There's no place in the world I'd rather be, and I want to make sure our horse community, our businesses stay strong, and we build a future for our young equestrians. You know, we look at our softball team, and you were saying how they were the youth sports capital of California. I hope also that we're the youth equestrian capital of California as well. Oh, I'm going to make this, I have to go speak faster. To let you know, and Greg's going to speak more, United States Polo Association, the United States Equestrian Federation, the American Driving Society, the U.S. Dressage Federation, U.S. Barrel Racing Association, the National Reining Horse Association, California Horsemen's Association, the National Thoroughbred Association, Jockey Club, the American Paint Horse Association, the American Arabian Horse Association, Palomino Horse Breeders of America, Association of America, American Shetland Pony and Mini Horse Club, Appaloosa Horse Club, and the American Shire Association have all made a request to participate and be part of this. Also UC Davis and the Interscholastic Equestrian Program. Please create an ad hoc committee. I would like to be on it so we can get going and make Horsetown great.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Well done.
Our next speaker is Scott McMillan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
I'm here on behalf of Leaps and Bounds. They couldn't make it here, and they asked me to read a letter to you about the ad hoc committee. Dear City Council members, Friends of Leaps and Bounds is proud to serve our community by offering equine-assisted therapy programs that benefit individuals with disabilities, children, and families in need. As the largest facility in the nation providing hippotherapy, we understand the critical role that horses play in these therapeutic services. Without equine assisted services like hippotherapy and adaptive riding, many families in Norco, Horsetown, USA, would be forced to seek help outside of our community. Our mission at Friends of Leaps and Bounds is to raise awareness about the essential role horses play in therapeutic settings. Horses offer more than just physical support, such as enabling individuals who physically unable to walk to experience walking. They also provide emotional and mental benefits through their unique ability to bond with humans, offering an unbiased and nurturing presence. In light of the upcoming 2028 Olympics, we respectfully request the City Council support and promote the use of horses in therapeutic settings. We believe that showcasing the impact of equine-assisted therapies during the Olympics would not only highlight the hard work and dedication of these incredible animals, but also generate revenue and recognition for our community. We propose organizing a parade and ranch tours in honor of the 2028 Olympics, where we can demonstrate therapeutic benefits of horses. Friends of Leaps and Bounds is committed to supporting this initiative by offering our facilities for safe and educational tours, led by our knowledgeable staff and dedicated volunteers. We are also eager to participate in the parade, showcasing the significant contributions of the equine community. Through this initiative, we aim to educate global audiences about the transformational power of equine-assisted therapies, increase access to the services, and further solidify Norco's reputation as Horsetown, USA. We believe this effort will not only benefit our community, but also inspire others worldwide to embrace the therapeutic magic of horses. Thank you for considering our requests. We look forward to the opportunity to work together to highlight the importance of equine-assisted therapy on a global stage. Sincerely, Friends of Leaps and Bounds.
Thank you. Well done. 70 seconds spare.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Greg Bowen.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Good, Greg.
Holly has gone to great deals to research this and ask people. She's contacted the U.S. Polo Association, and they have requested to hold an expedition here in Norco, and they would like to try to get the Paris Polo League to come here. That's a pipe dream. But what they'd like to do is have here in Norco. We've done a lot of research as far as where we could have it. It's definitely doable. The U.S. Barrel Horse Association would love to request to have one here for and all these that we're mentioning are want to be, like the polo wants to go back to the Olympics. They were once in the Olympics, now they want to go back. They did it in France, now they want to do it here in 28 because they're non-N. And they want to kind of say, hey, look, we're here, we want to get back in. Now they have the Barrel Horse Association wants to do the same thing. They've never been, but they would love to petition the Olympic Committee to have a barrel racing as one of the, candidates for the, or considerations. And they've got their approval. Holly's contacted all these people. She's gone to great lengths. She's working tirelessly over it. She's dragging me out nights over at the farm to have meetings when I'm like, oh, no, I can't go anymore. But we all do it. And the revenue that would come in from this would be phenomenal. I have friends that I've talked to in Temecula where they're having events. They have the facility, but they have no parking. And I know they want to do green, but we have everything. We have the covered arenas. We can pitch it to them. Not saying they'll take it, but it's worth a shot. And if we don't take it, we'll never know. And what better place to house the Olympic, tryouts for the next year's Olympics, but here in Norco. I know I've already sold to you guys. You would love to do it. I know it's hands down, but we would like to have an ad hoc committee. And, Holly wants to be on it. I'll be on it. And I'm sure there's tons of people out there would love to be on it. So if you have any questions, Holly's the go-to person for it. And she's motivated. She's making tons of phone calls. And if it succeeds, it's going to be all her. She is tirelessly going after this. I'm happy to be in the back seat with her. But that's all I got, and I would appreciate it if you guys could consider it. And I'd love to be on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Our next speaker is Don Mitchell.
Hi, Don.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. The last time I was here at a council meeting was about 4 months ago, talking about a drain situation. Since the county and the state, federal, whoever it was, spent $7.1 billion on the storm drains here in Norco, the one place they forgot was in front of my house. And they horseshoed around it. We talked about it before. You know, my biggest problem is I've been fighting the city over this issue for over 3 years. And I've gotten no answers. The last time I was here, I was told I'd be kept in the loop and we would see where it goes and we'd see how things were happening. Nobody's ever kept me in a loop of anything. I'm here tonight. I want to know what's going on. What's going to happen? I want it put on the agenda for next time, that when I come in, I want answers. I can call the engineering department and I get nothing. I fought with them for 3 years. Chad knows. He had to calm me down in the office one time. Why? Because when my house floods, and nobody else does after the storm drains went in, it's ridiculous. And this is dumping water from the city onto my property. It's not anything other than being rerouted onto the property. So anytime we have heavy rains, I get flooded. And I fought this issue and fought this issue with everybody in the engineering department. I get nothing. So what I'm requesting is that I get answers. I want to see plans. I want to know when this job is going to start. I want to know when it was proved. Everybody says things happened. When? I asked you, Kevin, before. You said, go on the website. You can find it. You can't find crap on that website. I've looked for it. And what is there doesn't talk about my situation. It talks all around it. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know where the plan is. You know, I heard from Sam Nelson for 3 years. It's in the works. The money's approved. It's all there. Where's it at? What I got is somebody painting lines halfway through my yard from the street into my driveway. But nobody's ever stopped and talked to me. Nobody's asked me any questions. Nobody's done anything since the last time I was here. Why? I want to know when this job is going to get done. Is there a deadline for it? That's what I want to know. Put it on the agenda. Get me some answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Our next speaker is Lacey Matson.
Hi, Lacey. How are you? Welcome.
Have a good evening. Thank you guys for taking the time, Mayor and council members, to listen to us. My name is Lacey Matson, and I'm the lead speaker for UWA Local 606. On behalf of the local, we would like to reach out to you all. Last week, you should have received a letter from the local. I hope that each of you have had time to read and consider the information given in the letter. I am here tonight to express that the local is open and willing to discuss the issues at hand with hopes of coming to a resolution. The local would also like to ask you to please refrain from voting on agenda item 3G, a 3-year contract with Z&K Consultants for Public Works Inspector Services. The position was originally held in-house. The position of the Public Worker Inspector is part of the Local 606 bargaining unit. This is a union position that should be filled by a union member. The local feels that a union member in this position would better serve the city. A union member, being a city employee, would have an understanding of the working of the city of Norco, the understanding of the infrastructure, the codes, as well as being compliant with the building requirements. As of now, city employees have been tasked to help contracted public work inspectors with inspections due to their lack of knowledge of regulations and the system. Employees have had to assist in inspections and shut down of the water systems. In the city's field, the city would save money if they filled the position by hiring it within. A city position salary at the highest scale for a Public Works Inspector 1 is approximately $77,000. For Public Works Inspector 2, it is approximately $86,000. If you went ahead and put in $50,000 each for benefits that would go along with it, you're looking at a total of $163,000 a year for 2 employees that are here at the city, hands-on all the time. Currently, the contract is with Z&K Consultant is $550,000. If we add in their salaries and their benefits, the workers would be $263,000. You guys would be saving $287,000 a year by hiring it in-house. Hiring the position also is consistent with your guys' strategic plan with your human capital. I would also like to remind the council that we are a new union, still learning rules and regulations, as we recognize you guys are still learning the rules and regulations of working around us as a union. But please note that this position are union positions that fall within the Local 606 bargaining unit, whereas the city contracted out these positions prior to our recognition of the union. The city cannot unilaterally contract away a bargaining unit work without negotiating with the union first. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Luke Matson.
Hi, Luke.
Mr. Mayor, just wanted to kind of reiterate on what she was saying. When we had the positions filled within on the inspector, there was a lot more people in Norco were actually about half scared to do stuff outside of their work areas. So right now you go through Norco, the delineation's off. We don't know half the time when work's going on, okay? And it's kind of running rapid out there, essentially. When we had an inspector in-house, it was taken care of a lot better. You know, that was 4 years ago. And you look at it now and they just kind of take advantage of us. And I'm not the only one that sees it. A lot of people that come through that know me, they say, what's going on with your city? Like, well, you know, we have inspectors, but they're just delegated to certain jobs. You know, they don't have that, you know, that need. You know, once they inspect a job, they're gone. You know what I mean? And we're hiring this out. So they inspect that job, then they're gone. You don't have to worry about it. When you have somebody in house, they have to answer a few things. You know, why did you, what'd you okay right here? They're there, they're within our city. And you know, I think being within, it would be a lot better. And that would be a lot better for the morale of our local. These are the people that are out 2 and 3 in the morning when everybody else is out sleeping. So that's all we wanted to say to maybe recognize the employees.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have no further speaker cards, Mayor.
Moving on to the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to pull something? I want to pull. Go ahead, please.
I'd like to know a little more. I'm going to go ahead and pull 3G.
Okay. I'm going to pull 3I. Do I hear a motion to approve the rest?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Greg, you would be first.
Thank you, Mayor. Chad, I know we talked about this the other day. Could you give me some more information on what would be the benefit to continue subcontracting this out in lieu of having 2 other full-time employees?
In general, we used to have 1 employee, and as trying to handle those jobs that were being tasked. And again, the inspector is tasked to handle all the capital projects and all the encroachment easements projects that might be like Southern Colorado Edison Gas Company, anything that's doing in the street and then the public right of way. So it's a lot of work depending on the year and whatnot. And certainly over the last couple of years with the funding, especially with Measure R, we're doing a lot more work. So we've increased our need for inspection. We had an inspector at one time, and when we parted ways with that inspector, we did make attempts to try to find another inspector internally. We couldn't find anybody that was qualified remotely, mainly because the pay scale was so poor. So we went out and we did a public process where we had several companies that were able to provide us services, and we used those to complete our project, especially as we ramped up. We got to the point where we actually needed 2 inspectors just to keep up. We had 1 inspector for a good couple years where he was just getting overwhelmed, and we just said, okay, we have to get another inspector, which we did this last year and a half. They're now managing that workload very well, and I think it's a very functional way of doing it. We get a lot of backup when these inspectors go on vacations. We get qualified people coming right back behind them to handle the projects, and we look for those folks that have a broad breadth of all the disciplines. And a lot of times we did do interviews, and we actually did one recently where we were trying to actually bring in another employee, not employee, but a consultant to add in because we ended our relationship with Wildan. Even in those interviews, we couldn't find folks that were qualified in multiple disciplines, a lot of more singular discipline, like streets, or maybe they did utilities. A lot of them were just doing streets, and we needed somebody that can handle all the disciplines, so we didn't have to train up, especially for the funds that we were paying for a consultant. We want to make sure they've got a good broad breadth of knowledge. So actually ended up doing it very well with the inspector that we have that has knowledge, has worked for a couple of years at Wildan. He went and got a contract, is now working with ZK. Okay. So we're not going to miss a beat, which is great for us because he's already got familiar with our city and our processes and how we manage projects. So I think overall it's been a much better benefit having the outside consultants do the work for reliability, for their expertise. We also able to bring in experts if we have certain projects that are key on certain things like attritions or that we need for certain projects if we need to customize that inspection expertise. So I think in this particular case for the discipline that we're doing, I very much recommend the use of the outside firms.
Okay. Yeah, and I think also that other compared with an in-house inspector that we would still, depending on workload, whatever, we're still going to have to backfill with another outside consultant then.
Yes, because it's normally the process, yes.
And
in the past, when we had one person, I'll just explain, when we had an employee, we didn't have backup, so we depended on any of our maintenance workers to try to fill in that gap.
Got it.
On a project, and which might have been completely out of their wheelhouse because they're not doing, they're not familiar with doing street overlays or things like that. And so having that expertise with outside consultants is just more efficient for us.
Well, I appreciate the explanation. I just wanted to get a little more clarification on that. Your recommendation is still stay with this new outside firm?
Yes, and again, we're always trying to cost cut. We're always trying to look for things, but when you cost cut, you lose some of the performance and quality of what you're trying to do, and that's what we're trying to maintain is a strong inspection team, which we have. And again, the inspection team works well with our Public Works Department. They coordinate on different things. The Public Works Department is the entity that does all our shutoffs when we're doing a tie-in for water mains, so the inspector is coordinating that, and that's part of the process. We don't want the inspector or the contractor touching our infrastructure. We do that work, so we work hand in hand with our group.
Well, you put together a good team as far as I'm concerned, so if there's nothing else, I'll recommend approval on this item.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have some, under discussion, I have some questions. Can you speak to the claim about that we cannot bargain away an existing position? Or are you prepared to answer that, Colin, or do we need more time?
Well, this is the first it's come up. Reading the staff report, that's not what I saw in the staff report. It doesn't look like we're taking an in-house person and going to an independent contractor. Looks like we're going from one independent contractor to another independent contractor. So from what I can see, it doesn't sound like a valid claim, but I haven't had a chance to look into it. I haven't. This is the first that's come up right here at the dais.
Okay, so I'd like to make a substitute motion to continue this item to September 4th so that we can get some more information and make sure that we're able to make a decision based on what we heard from our local members.
Chad, if we do that, will that delay any inspections or anything?
Primary issue is we don't have a valid contract now, and we're trying to get that back into compliance. It actually ended June 30th, and it was an oversight on my part. So that's why we're trying to make sure.
Are they still inspecting, or are we paying them by the hour, or?
They're still inspecting. You know, we're assuming at this point the rates that we're going to pay, and they're still submitting invoices, but it's something that I get addressed.
I believe our contracts have termination for convenience clauses in them. So if council approves it and something comes up, then we can always tell them, I'm sorry, we can't go forward.
So substitute motion, do I hear a second? We have a second on the substitute motion. So we'll now vote on the substitute motion, correct?
Correct. And for clarity, the substitute motion is to continue this item to September the 4th to get further information. Yes.
Legal information, yes.
Let me just put this in. It is, sorry, I just want to make sure that it's in there correctly. Okay. Please vote. And motion passes unanimous to continue.
Moving on to the item that I pulled, 3I. I would like to look at 4C, and I'm not exactly sure what I want to do here. What concerns me, because I'm very, very supportive of our planning commission, but what bothers me is I received an email that the person who was seeking to have something built on it's a very irregular property. It's right behind the Circle K. And quote, staff member, quote, put additional corrections when went to voted on, corrections that were never brought up at the first meeting. These were surprise corrections dropped on us. Everything they're asking for can be added to the plan. The property is a public nuisance and needs to be filled with a nice building. So my concern is that if something was in fact dropped, I don't know if that's the case. I'm not exactly sure what to do with this because the building, as I can see, is too large for the property, but it's one of those irregular properties. And I'm going to we've talked in the past that Norco has a lot of strange properties. In talking to the property owner, he feels he will build anything that he feels he can get built. So I decided to pull it to maybe get a bit of a staff report on it. I called to let people know, Alma, or who is it that is Alma, that's right. Or no, no, we were sent information on this. Anyway, I'm not sure what to do. What he has asked for is he'll build whatever he can build on the site. Again, it's a very odd property. I don't even know how it was created because it's just this rectangular sliver right behind the Circle K. So I'm not sure how to proceed with this. I'm not sure, do we get a staff report or do we?
Can I add a clarification,
Yeah,
Kevin?
absolutely.
So I emailed on August 12th about this to our city manager Sassoon to ask, was all of the feedback in the staff report given to the application before coming to the Planning Commission, before the recommendation of denial? And the answer was that yes, the applicant is well aware that staff cannot recommend approval of this project based on the findings in the staff report. The applicant nevertheless has decided to pursue the public hearing before the Planning Commission. Once the project is approved, we can no longer, correct me if I'm wrong, Alma, but then enforce, like we'll fix it later. It needs to be fixed before we approve that project, correct? If we have certain requirements that we would like to see, we cannot go back and say, hey.
No, I understand that. And so I guess my question is do we make the applicant go all the way back to the beginning? Or if we look at it, would they be able to make adjustments now? That's kind of what my question is.
I think they can make adjustments at council. Council is the final hearing body of planning commission decisions. Council appeals are usually appeals anew, de novo. So if the project gets so changed that it pragmatically needs to go back to the planning commission for a first review, that's one thing. But if all he's doing is
It's going to have to go back to planning commission. I have no doubt. What do you think, Alma?
Well, so my my understanding is that the council would have to pull it for appeal, and then at that point, the commission, the city council could either uphold the denial, overturn the planning commission's denial and approve the project, or you can send it back for review. Am I correct, Colin?
Correct.
So if we send it back to review, do they have to pay all the fees and all the things they've paid up to this point?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how our fee ordinance reads. I could see council, not hearing anybody that knows the answer to that. If the appeal is no cost and the person's already paid for a hearing and council takes an appeal and they send it back down, then I think council's within your discretion to say you're not going to charge a fee for the further planning commission review, if that's what council's desire is.
Well, I personally don't have a problem sending it back. There's just some confusion about the project, both on the part, I think, of the property owner and the staff. There's just some confusion going on. I don't know what's going on. But I guess the motion I would make then is to send it back without having to pay the fees back to the planning commission or some nominal fees. I'm just not sure what to do.
And are they then able to update their project to meet the requirements that were requested of them?
The question.
So my understanding is the council would have to appeal the project for hearing, and that's where you have to make, that's where you would make.
And
the
then they
decision.
come, and then we can send it to the planning commission and
Yes,
request that they
after-
make changes if they'd like it to be approved.
That is my understanding.
Okay, so you want a motion for an appeal?
Well, I want to hear from Councilman Newton, former planning commissioner.
Former.
Well, you want to go back? I'll appoint
So,
you.
would you be able to do that tonight?
It's not on the agenda, no.
It was a public hearing at planning, correct? Or a discussion item?
Discussion and because of site plan review approval. That's what it was. So it was a
So-
public meeting, yeah.
Was the applicant there, present?
Yes.
Or representatives, architect, engineer, whatever?
The person that came up to the podium was the project architect. So yeah, the representative was there.
Right. So they made their case. I'm trying to figure out what part of that you're hung on as far as what information they were told, like after the fact or whatever. If they had a hearing, they were able to make their case. The commission denies it. So if the applicant doesn't like the decision that the planning commission made, they can appeal it to city council, and I think there's a fee for that. On a couple of cases, I mean, there's a process where that can be appealed to council. We make the decision, but in the couple of cases that we've had where somebody says, will you pull this item for me so I don't have to pay the fee? I've always refused to do that because to me, it seems you're lending an indication to that person that you're already supporting their position before you've heard their case. So my feeling's always been, if you want to appeal it, that's your right. You pay the fee, and then council makes the decision on that matter.
How much is it to appeal?
Oh my goodness. I think it's I don't remember off the top of my head. Somewhere between $1,000 and about $1,000, I believe.
And then how much will it be for them to start the process over again?
Oh, that is. I think I think it was like 4,000 something. I don't know the exact number, but it's about that
Essentially,
much.
the building was too big for the property. We talked about it. So
Yeah, and there was other stuff that we really
other
can't-
issues, and
yeah.
it's just a very
Mhm.
irregularly shaped property. So I guess my concern is that for them to get it back to council, it's going to cost about $6,000, and I have a concern, and I don't think this is at the planning commission level, but I just want to make sure that everything was kind of, all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted and that kind of stuff. That's really what I am concerned about. As we know, there have been issues, and so I just want to make sure that the person gets a fair shake for an irregularly shaped piece of property.
Can you confirm that they received all of that feedback beforehand,
Yes,
the
that's my
comments?
understanding.
Yeah, that's what I was confirmed with, but to make that they chose to proceed with a project that they had been given this feedback to, that the staff would be recommending denial because they did not make the changes as requested per our code. And they chose to proceed, and then they were denied. So, because I saw that, and so I specifically asked before they came, did they get all this information before they are coming to the council? Yes, many times was the answer I was given. And they chose to proceed with the project.
That's correct.
Hoping that the planning commission would approve it.
Well, our recommendation was for denial,
Mhm.
and the planning commission upheld our recommendation.
How do you consider this lot irregular?
Um,
It's rectangular in shape, is it
Yeah, it's
not?
rectangular, but then it's like right behind a building, and then you've got a house sitting there, and then it's just very small. I mean, I don't even know how it was created. I don't know if it came, it's just a weird lot. It's very, like this little tiny piece that I'm just not sure what you can do with it. You may not be able to develop it at all, and I guess there's a part of me that thinks, well, if you can't develop it, if there's no opportunity to develop it, I just wonder, did the planning department try to help the person to develop it? Did they try to, I'm just curious. I'm not, there's no value judgment here, but did they really try to, because we're always talking about these irregular lots, now, I also know that this is a developer, he's somebody that develops a lot of properties, but this is a strange lot. And so I just wanted, my instinct is just for whatever reason, because I don't even remember ever overturning a planning commission. I can't, one time. And what do you think? Do you think this person got a fair shake? Do you think that they knew full well what they were walking into?
Yes. And again, the city council does have, you can pull it for discussion.
Right.
And at that point, you can either, like I said, uphold the planning commission's denial, overturn the planning commission, or send it back to planning commission allowing for the redesign. So that's basically, yeah, I don't know that we can discuss the project any further because it's basically.
Well, then with that, I will make a motion to send it back to the planning commission.
Mayor, we do have one
Oh,
speaker
please,
card.
yes, that's right.
Call Farah
Yep.
as one speaker.
Hello, my name is Cal Farah. I'm the civil engineer on the project. The items that you are discussing now, when that project was designed, there are no items that we put on that design that did not abide by the city code. We had the correct number of parkings. We had the correct number of building. We had the building within the whole depth of the site is 150 feet deep, which means fire doesn't even have to get on site because it's within the 150 feet from the sidewalk or from the curb. So we did abide by all those items. The only item that jumped up at us was 16 square feet of additional landscaping that is needed. The rest of it was very subjective. The planning during that meeting that happened last week, they complained, the discussion was that the building was too high, which is not against the city code, that it was put in the back of the building, back of the lot. And the reason we put it in the back of the lot so we can have the parking up front and to be as far the building from the existing house and not to have a hidden parking in the back of the building. So we did follow the city code. We did not go around city code or any of the city ordinances. The only item that we missed was 16 square feet, and we had enough square footage of landscaping that we could have played with to get that 16 square feet. But the rest, we did not go around city code. The site was designed per city code. Setbacks, square footage of building, number of parkings. Landscape landscape percentages, that was the only thing, and it was 16 square feet out of 590.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is John Opitz.
Good evening. My name is John Opitz, the property owner of the Center Street property. City and Planning Commission denied the building on 8/14 based on a few conditions prior to the denial, and during the review process, planning didn't mention that the landscaping was short, the driveway needed to be 25 feet, and the building impacted the neighbor's animal keeping area. These little requests could have been made prior to the commission meeting on my plans. I'm sorry that my architect couldn't make it here tonight to plead his case as well. During the planning commission meeting, the comments that were made the following: their comments were to make the building have a more Norco theme, make the building shorter, make the driveway 25 feet, the landscape have 16 square feet. I have no argument, like, we want to do the right thing for the city of Norco. I live in the city of Norco. Right now, the property is just raw land, and it's a public nuisance. My plans for this location is putting a beautiful, like, retail location for the city of Norco. Can you please help me get my plans back to planning so we can add those small corrections and get everybody's support? Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, John. So
I have no further comments, Mayor.
Any comments on that? Is that, I mean,
I have a question. Previous, before it was brought to planning, have all the code enforcement issues been resolved, and has the property been cleaned up of, because I know we had continuous code enforcement issues with this property. Have all those been resolved?
That's my understanding that they have, yes.
And then Alma, so comments of the driveway size, landscaping size, lowering the height, Norco theme, were those all passed on to the applicant before it came to planning?
Yes, again, the project does go through project review and all that information, and at that time, the applicant is made aware, and the applicant was told that we were not going to recommend approval, and they said, we want to move forward, so that's why we went forward with the recommendation for denial.
Okay, and then just in general for my colleagues, my concern is if we appeal this, whatever we do should always be fair. So if we appeal this, then anyone who comes with a denial, they should also then have the chance to do the same thing. Based on what I'm hearing, their project was recommended denial and they chose to proceed. That's correct, Alma?
Correct.
so the height of the building, all those things were addressed.
Right, that's my understanding, yes.
Do we know for sure?
Yes, that's correct.
Don't be afraid. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this too. Kind of stumbling through it as best I can. So, do we have a motion to appeal or send it back to planning?
Mayor, right now, we have your motion on the floor, send it back to planning without paying any fees. That's the motion on the floor right now with no second.
Mayor, best practice under our code would be a motion to appeal.
All right, then I will rescind my motion and a motion to appeal.
Okay. Do we have a second?
So I'll make a substitute motion to that, is to uphold the Planning Commission's denial based on the fact that the applicant has a right to due process to appeal Planning Commission and Council's decision.
Mayor Pro Tem, that would be an action that we would have to agendize, upholding the Planning Commission's denial. The only decision before council would be the possibility of appeal.
So the appeal has died for a lack of second. So do I hear a motion to approve the article as it stands, 3I?
I still have another question.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, Colin. Our action on consent is to uphold the Planning Commission's denial,
It's to approve the minutes.
or just to approve the minutes?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So my motion dies for a lack of a second, which I now bring it back to, do I hear a motion to approve 3I, which is the approval of the minutes?
Of the minutes only.
Yep, we're right back where we started.
Square one.
Where
We're approving the recap.
Yep.
Like you would on the
Motion
consent
to
calendar.
approve.
We have a motion and a second.
Please vote.
So what will happen is I would contact Alma and she will tell you what your next steps are. Okay? Thank you. Moving on to
City manager, interim city manager, were you going to be moving 5A to after?
Yep. Mr. Mayor, if I can make a request, is there a chance that council would hear the city manager compensation before legislative matters?
Sure. Is everybody all right with that?
I'm sorry, I got two mixed up. Council compensation, city manager threshold. City manager threshold, please, before the legislative items.
City manager threshold.
That's the $25,000 versus $50,000.
And which number is that?
6B.
6C. All right. Going to 6C if everybody's all right.
So 6B, discussion regarding city manager.
Contract approval threshold.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last budget session, the council reviewed numerous contracts between $25,000 and $50,000. So council asked to discuss the city manager's contract approval authority and consider reducing that authority, which currently is $50,000, to $25,000. For background, in August 2018, the city reviewed its purchasing policies. At that time, it amended its policy to conform with current risk management at the time and government best practices to increase the city manager's authority to $50,000. After that time, the council has done several budget adoptions and noticed that there are a significant amount of contracts that are going through that are between $25,000 and $50,000, and a concern was raised that council should review some of those contracts, or at least discuss reviewing some of those contracts. For context, in fiscal year 2023 to 2024, there were 36 purchase orders between $25,000 and $50,000. However, some of those purchase orders were part of contracts from construction projects that were approved by the city council. So purchasing authority limits vary from city to city. The city clerk did a survey of authorization thresholds, and they do run between $25,000 and $100,000. The $50,000 authority falls within the middle, but council did want to discuss this, so that's the the lay of neighboring cities, and we're here for any questions.
Bring it back to council. Any questions? Greg?
Lisette,
Yes.
what's your advice, your professional advice? What do you feel comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with remaining at 50,000. There is, the majority of these are construction projects, and, if we have to come back for, those that are between that area, would just prolong the construction of those projects.
Won't put Amanda on the spot yet. You're close, though.
Could I, Catherine?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask the same question that Councilmember Newton asked, but I'm going to direct that at Director Hamilton and Director Blyce for your opinion as well. Will that hold up construction projects significantly if that change was made?
For my department, yes. We do smaller projects, and they're under that $50,000 threshold, and it's just I get 3 bids, and it's just easier to process than having to write a staff report and come back to council. The other big thing is purchase of pool vehicles. Pool vehicles are under, so most of them that we purchase for code enforcement, building official, even in my department are under 50,000. And a lot of car dealerships will not hold those vehicles. So we are literally getting those 3 bids and saying, process the PO as fast as you can, because car dealerships will not hold a car for us without a PO.
Thank you.
For Public Works, most of the time, a lot of the time, most of our stuff is well over $50,000, which comes to council anyway. There are items for small contracts that, for maybe some specialized design engineering that we need for a particular issue, that may end up being a quote of like $30,000. And we've got, we still try to go out multiple quotes, but it's easier and more efficient to just go to the city manager and to ask for that approval so we can move forward on that particular item. But in most cases, it comes to this council, and council gives the city manager approval to author that PO.
Okay, I appreciate that information, because when I looked at the information in the staff report, we see that Eastvale and Haruba Valley, their threshold is significantly smaller, but they also have JCSD. So the projects that city is doing, so I appreciate that, because this is not a point that I considered when I looked at this, but certainly all of the other cities who are doing work more similar to us do have a higher threshold. So thank you for that information.
Robin, anything?
Well, this was my request, so I do have a question, because one of the things that was mentioned was that some of these were parts of a construction project anyway. So what work beyond a staff report and looking at a calendar when you're doing the projects and getting them to council on the timeline is prohibitive of potentially lowering the threshold? Because that's what I heard in your answer, Amanda, is I have to write a staff report and I have to look at timelines and manage my time, right?
Yeah, and I mean, our CIP schedule is pretty tight, and so we do have, an annual project every year within the parks, where it's the park enhancement project. Smaller projects, like when we put in the white vinyl fencing at Pikes Peak Park, that was under $50,000. Sometimes, we have all these other projects that we're focusing on. It just takes a little bit more of our time to write those reports and wait on that, especially when we have contractors that are ready to go. It's nice to just knock those out. It's just more efficient for us.
That's the only questions I have at this time.
Erwin?
No, I would go along with what Lizette had to say there. I mean, she's the one that writes the checks, and I know that you don't need to hold up any construction outfit projects if you can help it over $25,000 or $30,000.
Any public comments?
I have no public comments on this item, Mayor.
Okay. Closing public comments, bringing it back to council for a vote or discussion, or
Kind of along with Catherine, on, like Urupa Valley, not only JCST, but I believe almost all their departments are subcontracted out. Like their planning department, they're subcontractors. It's like they almost have very few real employees there. I mean, would you have any input on that? Or, and maybe that's
Correct.
what I'm thinking, excuse me, why their limit is so skewed lower.
Correct. Hoopa Valley is a contracted city. They're, working on changing that as they're developing, but currently their majority is it's done by contract work, their personnel. And then for Eastville, they actually recently reached out for our current policy, because they're looking into whether that needs to be changed on their end. So they did ask, we were asking for theirs, and they're like, actually, I was going to call you to get your ordinance on your current purchasing policy to use.
Okay. Thank you.
So I appreciate Councilmember Grunmeyer bringing this up, because I think more transparency is always a good thing. So with that, I would make a motion to bring. Oh, sure. Can I go ahead? No, it's okay. I was just going to make a motion that we have a policy brought back in which, can we just get this information quarterly? So what are the just as we got today, or not today, but there was a request to staff, well, what is the amount of orders that have gone underneath, approvals that have gone underneath this, just so that there's more transparency and that's available to the public, but it doesn't hold any of our projects up.
I would like to have like a separate piece of information so that it doesn't come in our weekly highlights. It comes maybe every couple weeks or monthly or whatever, where we've gone maybe above the 25,000 to 50,000. I'm not so certain about the 25,000, but just, okay, we spent 35,000, we bought a truck or whatever it is you're going to buy, just so that we know what those things are. Is that all right with you guys?
Catherine, can I get clarification on your motion? Are you basically asking for the check register, so to speak, for anything over 25,000
Not so
on
much
a quarterly basis? Is
Yes,
that your
25 to
request?
50, that would come
25 to
on
50.
consent.
25 to 50.
And we could just see those items.
The check register is different than what was provided with regarding purchase orders.
Because that's all the monies, right?
Correct. These are just
These are
listing
just
of
purchase
purchase
orders.
orders.
Yes. So what applies to the policy that's in question here?
And rather than purchase orders, what I'd rather
The
have
electric
is
bill
if we just have an
necessarily.
itemized list. I mean, we're not doing that many of them, are we? I don't want it to become,
Yes, just the POs. So similar to the item that we had, not every single, the power bill and so forth, yes.
Does that work for you guys?
It does. Sorry, we have direction.
Okay, all right.
We need a second and a vote if the council is in agreement.
Do we have a second? I'll second.
Please vote.
Okay, where'd you want us to go now? 5A, back to 5A?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right, going back to 5A, legislative matters, we will ask council if you have any questions or concerns. Ask for public comment, ask for motion. 5A, interim city manager free will answer questions. Second reading amendment of ordinance 1040 for ordinance number 1123, second reading. Do we have any questions, concerns? Do we have any public comments?
No public comment, Mayor.
Closing public comments. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Please vote. Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to 6A. discussion regarding existing requirements for primary animal keeping areas, PACAs, and open animal keeping areas on private property zoned for animal keeping, and changes, updates that may be warranted to further facilitate and protect animal keeping. Alma.
Yes, that would be. All righty. So let me get the presentation on the. So this agenda item 6A is a discussion on PACAs and ACAs. So the discussion on the existing, the purpose of this item is it was initiated by both the Planning Commission and City Council to have a discussion on the primary animal keeping areas, or PACAs, and the open animal keeping areas, or ACAs, to determine if changes are warranted to further facilitate and protect animal keeping on private property. As council is aware, a PACA, just very briefly, a PACA is a legal deed restriction recorded with meets and bounds, and if not existing, is required for a new subdivision. So if it's an existing PACA, it's been recorded, legal meets and bounds, and as far as requirements for now, it basically falls under if there's a new subdivision, and that's where the PACA comes into play. Minimum of 30 feet on all sides, rectangular in shape, and must be either 2,728 square feet or 3,304 square feet, depending on the pad size. The ACAs, or the open animal keeping areas, are required with the approval of an accessory building, and they must be a minimum of 24 feet on all sides, rectangular in shape, and the size is based on the number of animal units on the property. So our Planning Commission had several discussions on this item, and basically to determine whether some changes are needed to either make them larger, to facilitate animal keeping further, and in a way that protects our animals. So after some discussion, the Planning Commission basically, in conjunction with staff, we narrowed it down to 2 discussion items. The first item was that staff was directed to develop a sliding scale to accommodate a minimum dimension of at least 30 feet for ACAs. Right now it's 24 feet, but they wanted to be consistent with the PACAs to be at least 30 feet wide on all sides. But then developed a sliding scale, so as the ACA got bigger, as the ACA got bigger, depending on the number of animal units, so did the width, or the minimum size on each side. So what was presented to Planning Commission and is recommended that a code amendment be pursued is that based on the size of the lot, that will determine the minimum dimension on any side. You're still looking at a 576 square feet, but as the property gets bigger, so does the PACA, gets wider or deeper, and it depends on the size of the property. So the Planning Commission has recommended that the City Council consider directing staff to initiate a code amendment to establish a code amendment to add this table to that the ACA includes as the size of the lot gets bigger. And in their discussion, the Planning Commission said, also put in provision for those lots that are 60,000 square feet or more. The direction was also given that, if we decide to do a sliding scale for the size or the dimensions that the width and the depth, that we also look at as the possibly incorporating a sliding scale for the size. Right now, the ACAs the size is based on the number of animal units times 576. The Commission also directed that a code amendment also include that as the property gets larger, so does the square footage dedicated to an animal. So, for example, maybe at 20,000 square feet, you still stay with 576 per animal unit, but as it goes to say 30,000, then the area increases to, just for example, 600 square feet, and it goes on as the property goes bigger. So not only the dimensions, but also the area. And one thing to note is that these changes would only be applicable to ACAs. Our Planning Commission basically narrowed down their discussion for this to ACAs because as far as properties in the A1 zone being subdivided to incorporate a PACA, it's getting smaller and smaller, the opportunities. If other properties outside of the A1 zone end up having PACAs, that the size, dimensions, and all that can be addressed via a subdivision map or the subdivision map that comes before the city council. So the other area that the Planning Commission wanted us to focus on as far as any potential changes is to basically clarify what's allowed in the PACA or the ACA. Right now in the PACA, you're allowed to cover 40% with an animal keeping structure. With the ACA, you can't have any permanent structures. They have to be free and clear, but we could allow property owners to have those structures that don't require a permit, like animal keeping structures. And the one thing to note is that our ACAs and PACAs, there's no direction on, it doesn't address ground cover, like whether or not concrete can be allowed or pavers, etc. So the commission wanted us to discuss that. So after discussing that section, the commission determined that we need a clarification as far as what's allowed in the PACAs and the ACAs. They should be limited to real, actual animal keeping shelters. In other words, if somebody says, yeah, I'm gonna install a storage shed for my tools, it's like, no, that would not be allowed in the PACA or the ACA. It would be just animal keeping shelters. And the commission's directions that we incorporate a code amendment to clarify that. And after discussions on ground covers in these areas, the direction was that no recommendation for changes. We'll address any issues with ground cover, depending on a case-by-case basis with an application. So those are the two areas that have been recommended for changes. Our discussion today is for the City Council basically to concur with the Planning Commission's direction for a potential code amendment to include these items and any additional items that the City Council may determine warranted. And with that, I will conclude and we'll entertain any questions, any input. Let me know if we're on the right page and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Council have any questions? Greg?
So this goes back a little bit. Was there any discussion, or did I miss it, on increasing the size of the PACAs? But I had brought this up before that, to me, logically, maybe not logically, that if you can cover 40% of the PACA, reduces the open space of the PACA, that we should be increasing the sizes of the PACA by the 40%.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it would be that instead of putting 576 square feet per animal unit, we would change that number to 800 square feet per animal unit.
So rather than focusing on lot coverage, yes, we did discuss that, but rather than focusing on lot coverage, the direction was that the area actually get bigger, that the coverage stay the same, but that the area actually get bigger. See, as it gets, the square footage of the property gets bigger, so does the size of the, for ACAs, not for PACAs. Yes, you are correct. For the PACAs, there was no recommended changes.
Okay, so nothing on PACAs yet?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, and the reason for that is the commission determined that you can't really go back on some of the existing PACAs that already have, like for example, up in the specific plan, they already have their set regulations. I mean, it would be difficult to go back to change them all. What would we be focusing more on new creation of new subdivisions?
Right. I mean, the intent, or at least my intent, was never to go back
Okay.
on any existing specific plans.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, those are pretty well set, but it's for any future
Yes.
tentative maps.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Mhm.
Any proposed developments
Mhm.
that this would that be increased.
Yes, yes, and the reason why they did this, the commission determined not to focus on PACAs is because for example, in the A1 zone, there's very few properties left that are potentially subdividable. However, that, yes, and I
Let's hear that. However,
however, that for example, for properties that are outside of the A1 zone, and they come before the Planning Commission City Council for a subdivision, the specific requirements of a PACA. For example, let's say it's an R1 zone. the requirements for a PACA, because there's no requirements in the R1 zone, that could be dictated based on the parcel, the track map that's being recorded. The city council does have the discretion to say, hey, you know, the PACAs should be a minimum size, whatever's the term warranted to facilitate animal keeping. So, however, that doesn't mean that we can't amend the code, the A1 zone, to make the PACAs larger in a sliding scale, just like they determined with the ACAs. That's absolutely, that could happen.
Was there any discussion with the planning commission on, I think we were talking about just like animal keeping, only animal keeping structures?
Yes.
That, when I think we need to bring in the ag part on this, is animal keeping agriculture. I mean, we know we can plant gardens on a PACA, we can put fruit trees on a PACA, right? But what about work that you don't need a permit for? Let's say pouring concrete.
That was the discussion on concrete, and that's where the commission, the planning commission, had the discussion on possibility of codifying, not allowing, say for example, concrete or pavers in the PACA or in the ACAs, but that basically they basically determined, you know, that could be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, especially if, you know, we have a new subdivision that can be addressed then, or if with the review of accessory buildings in the ACA, that could be addressed on a case-by-case, rather than codifying it and just, you know, in general, precluding, in other words, putting that in the code to say no concrete in the ACAs, for example. They wanted to approach it on a case-by-case.
All right. So that would still allow, if you wanted to use if you built a barn and you want to put an impervious surface inside that.
Yeah, because the barn would have to come back to the planning commission, and at that point, they can address that.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Thanks. You, Greg. Berwin?
Yeah, you're recommending the 576 square foot per animal.
That's codified. That's existing.
It's 24 by 24.
Yeah, 576 per animal unit. That's the area. That's you know, depending on the size of the property. Say for example, they want to build an accessory building. They have to show an open animal keeping area. Let's say they allow 5 animal units. 5 times 576 is the area that they need to show on their site plan. So yes, it's currently right now it's 576.
Well, I've been on a lot of properties in this town in my career. 20,000 foot square lot, which is a Norco half acre, whatever. And they had a small accessory building back there, a workshop. And they had 5 horses and they only had room for 12 by 24 stalls. That's half of the 576 square feet. And they were getting by fine with them. Now, you wouldn't go in there and make them in, they don't have room to increase it. If they got 5 animals, they don't have room to increase their corral sizes because they got their shop back there and stuff. I see what I mean? And they get by fine with it. So if somebody come in with a new lot, gonna build a house on it and everything, are you gonna, and it's a 20,000 square foot, you're not gonna force them to put the 576 square feet for each horse, are you?
If it's a new subdivision, they'll have to record a PACA. If they want to come in and build a accessory building, that's where they'll have to show that
Oh,
they
but I'm
have.
not talking about an accessory, I'm talking about for their animals. If they only got room for what I just talked about, 12 by 24 instead of 24 by 24.
If it's a structure that requires a permit,
What's that?
if it's a structure that requires a permit, they will need to show that they have room to accommodate the size based on the number of animal units. Otherwise, we can't approve the.
I don't know if they get permits or not on these on these portables. They just buy them. And
Again, if it's something that doesn't require a permit, like a portable, you know, like the structures that we reviewed or the council reviewed maybe a month ago, If it doesn't require a permit, then yes, no, we wouldn't, they would be allowed to do it. I mean, they wouldn't have to go before the planning commission on that. If it's a structure that doesn't require a permit. But if it's a structure that requires a permit, then they would have to show the required area.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Catherine? Robin? Oh,
I
sorry.
sent my questions in earlier, thank you.
Do I have any public comments?
No public comments, Mayor.
Closing public comments, bringing you back for discussion, motion.
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. I'm still
under discussion.
I have heartburn under this not increasing the size for the animal keeping by the coverage. How often was this discussed by planning?
We discussed this item, gosh, probably like 3 times.
Okay.
And that's where we narrowed it down. But again, the recommendation this evening is for, to direct staff to do the code amendment, and that would all go back to the planning commission. And with that direction, city council absolutely has the authority to say, hey, look at the PACAs and change the site or whatever it is at the council. So that, again, the direction or the recommendation is that basically authorize staff to move forward with a code amendment that will go back to the planning commission and then come back to you guys for formal adoption.
Okay,
With
so
all
this
with all
motion is
changes.
just
To move forward.
to move forward back to planning.
Back to planning with an actual code amendment. We'll draft the code amendment based on the discussion. Go back to planning commission, they'll discuss it, and then the recommendation comes back to the city council. Again, this was only to, basically the council authorizes, we're on the right page, we're on the right track, move forward with the code amendment. So that's the discussion this evening. But the council definitely has the authority to say, hey, you need to address this as well.
I don't think you're on the right track yet.
Okay.
That's my
Fair enough.
problem with it. And
Or
and it's just that specific issue with it.
Or the council can say, hey, more discussion, and then come back.
Yep. Please vote.
Back.
Councilmember Hanner, your vote?
Yes.
Motion passes with Mayor Pro Tem Newton voting no.
Moving on to 6C, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 1124. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco, California, amending Title 9 of the Norco Municipal Code, Chapter 9.20 Fireworks, Section 920.040 Administrative Citation, issuance to increase the fine amounts for illegal use of fireworks, Code Amendment 2024-10. Colin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance recommending an increase to the administrative fine for illegal use of fireworks to $2,500 for safe and sane fireworks and $5,000 for those that are not safe and sane. Many animals hear sounds at greater intensity than people. Fireworks are a noise without warning. Animals, for example, dogs, are visibly afraid of fireworks. They will hide, pace, shake, cry, or flee. They are unable to process what's going on or find a safe haven, and horses' innate fear responses take over when they hear fireworks. Because of the detrimental effect of fireworks on animals and the fire hazard posed by fireworks, the City of Norco Municipal Code bans fireworks except for pursuant to a special permit. The penalties for violating the Norco Municipal Code are $1,000 for safe and sane, $2,000 for fireworks that are not safe and sane. Those are administrative fine penalties. Despite those, there continue to be fireworks violations, so to further deter illegal fireworks, it is recommended to increase the administrative citation penalty to $2,500 for violations relating to safe and sane fireworks, $5,000 for violations relating to non-safe and sane fireworks. And I'm here for any questions.
Robin? Catherine?
Yeah, I sent this question earlier, but in doing the research on what is considered safe and sane, what are considered safe and sane fireworks, and what is the amount of noise, if any, the safe and sane ones provide. Because my understanding is when we're talking about not safe and sane, these are the ones that exit into the air, these are the ones that make a lot of noise, whereas safe and sane could be a sparkler or a snake. While there is some risk, I looked it up, it's very minimal. Sometimes there are burns from a sparkler, for example, because they do get quite hot, but the majority of injuries by far are from non-safe and sane fireworks.
Correct, I'd agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
Greg? Berwin? Well, it was very interesting, and it doesn't quite have to do with this, but I was actually shocked at the fireworks that went on and on and on all around us. It was like a war zone. I've never heard fireworks like that the whole time I've lived in Norco. They were all around us, and they went late. So that's all I have to say. Do we have any public comments?
No public comment, Mayor.
Closing public comments, bring you back to council for discussion and action.
One last question. Colin, can this be separated to approve each fine separately?
Yes, it can. It would be an amended motion, or it would be to amend the ordinance and bring it back for a second read as amended. Sorry.
So I have a question.
I hear what you're saying. Okay.
Our fire chief isn't here.
Out of sight.
Yeah, I understand.
And
So I just have a question. I once saw a person standing on top of a hay stack shooting off fireworks. Would we all be confident? Would we all be confident? I sprayed him with water. What can I say? Ruined his hay. I don't care. Would we be comfortable with a sparkler above a stack of hay? Would we be comfortable with even one of the snakes above a stack of hay? Would we be comfortable with a sparkler in a stall of shavings? And so for me, I think that we just don't allow any fireworks whatsoever. We're animal keeping, and I totally get the kids want to play with that stuff, but all of our barns, I mean, I have wood barns, they're highly flammable. And the bad news is you drop one of those sparklers, you drop it maybe in the shavings. Not that this could maybe ever happen, but the point is I did see a horse person on top of a stack shooting fireworks. Just the little ones you buy at the stations. And I just think that we have to be particularly careful of fire in the city of Norco. We are, contrary to SC Edison, who says we're not, we are in a very flammable community, and come January 1st, we're all going to find out how much that insurance is going to cost us. Yes, Berwin.
Well, Roman candles would be they're worse than anything. I mean, that's a ball of fire.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the fountains, even the big fountains, those are classified as safe and sane as well. As someone that's gone on fireworks enforcement several times, most of the citations we've written have been for safe and sane, where people have the big fountains and some of those things in the yard. And so I was the one that asked to bring this forward because our neighboring cities have increased their fines as well. You know, the $2,000 fine for the aerials seems to make an impression on folks, and I just feel like we need to have a little bit stronger arm for the enforcement folks and make it worth their time. They're coming in at usually 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, and they're working till 2 or 3 in the morning when we're having fireworks enforcement. And so just having some way to kind of have some return on investment for the time, the staff time that's going into trying to keep people from shooting off fireworks. I feel like a lot of times it's repeat offenders going on enforcement. We know which neighborhoods to go to because it's always the same neighborhoods where we're going to be able to write the citations. So I don't feel like it's, you know, one here, one there. It's always the same folks most of the time. So that's just my experience riding along for a few years. So.
Any other comments? Yep. Greg?
I'd like to hear from our lieutenant, your opinion on this, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she was on the task force.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
was,
I
I was
mean-
thinking fire person.
But, well, I mean, it's like,
Yeah, no, it's good.
I
how are
100%
your,
agree.
like, results with the 4th of July and,
I mean, like Mayor Bash said, I mean, it's hard to catch everybody because a lot of the times you see them, you know, and I wasn't out this 4th of July, but I talked to Rachel and we had the results. You know, a lot of times you see them and then you go to the street and whoop, they're gone, you know, so it's difficult to catch them just based on my past too of being on fire, you know, trying to getting all the firework calls, going to the firework calls. You see them and you get to where you think they are and you can't identify where they're at. But I 100% agree with what Councilwoman Grunmeyer said as far as that. I think that if you hit them hard enough with these fines, they're going to think about staying in Norco to do these fireworks as opposed to, hey, no, we're not going to do them at our house anymore because it's a $5,000 fine or a $2,500 fine as opposed to a smaller fine. So I am in 100% agreement. And coming from a town where we're very flammable too, you know, it drives me nuts to see them in my community. So, and we have horses as well. So I 100% agree with what Colin said and what Councilwoman Grunmeyer said.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
I make a motion to approve.
Read title, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
You going to say something about my question earlier?
I was going to try to help pragmatically how to work the motion and splitting it between two fines, and I was going to say that if you wanted to suggest an alternate motion where the one fine stayed the same and the other fine went up, or however you wanted to.
Okay, yeah. Well, why this is under discussion because it's going to come up for a vote. Certainly, I'm not saying that fireworks should be legal, and I certainly support increasing the fine to $5,000 for the non-safe and sane. But it's a little bit of a harder decision for me to increase a fine to $2,500 if someone has a sparkler. So that is something that has weighed on me. So that's why I was asking about the motion. And I did research on this, you know, because I want to come with good information. And so that's just where I am.
Mr. Mayor, can we call up Deputy Wittenberg for
Sure.
a quick question then? Sorry.
Sorry, I know
You're
you were
like,
back
dun,
there
dun, dun.
sleeping, so.
So I know what my experience has been on enforcement, and I completely understand Councilmember Alleman's concern, like getting a $2,500 fine for a sparkler. So let's say you were on enforcement because you're there all the time, and you came up on a family with the kids sitting in front of the garage with some sparklers. How would you handle that particular situation?
I mean, that does happen once in a while. There will be a family with just, you know, one or two little sparklers. Typically, we will check, make sure they don't have anything else. And me personally, I'll make them, put them in the water and let them be on their way.
Mm-hmm.
The people that we are citing are the people that have a full setup in the garage or out in the middle of the cul-de-sac is typically where we find them. And they've invested a lot of money and they're out there with all their chairs and they're just shooting them off one after another. The sparklers, I don't know of anybody that's actually been cited for just a couple sparklers here or there. You know, we will let them know, hey, you know, that neighbors could think you're gonna be doing bigger fireworks, you know, maybe it's gonna scare some of the animals, you need to put them out, you need to go inside, we're gonna come back and check later. And that usually solves that problem.
Right. And that's been my experience too with the person that I've been with. If it's just sparklers, we're going to have a conversation with them. Same thing, put them out, we'll take your stuff, and no citations are written. It's like a warning. And we do
Right.
say, we'll come back by and check.
And we usually,
they're
it's an
done.
education too,
Mhm.
because it does say safe and sane. So some people are under the assumption that it is safe to do them here in Riverside County. But I feel like Riverside County and the city of Norco did a really good job making it very clear that it was not legal here. So, you know, if they're buying them, they're certainly not buying them in Riverside County legally. They're buying them in other counties that allow it, and then they're bringing them here and unfortunately setting them off here. So we are educating and citing when necessary.
Thank you.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Mayor?
A motion and a second on the floor? Oh, please, Berlin.
Yeah, myself, I do not believe that there is a safe and sane firework. If you've ever had to go in and drag burned up horses out of a barn that burned down, that was caused by fireworks, you wouldn't want them on your property. It's like Kevin said with the hay and the shavings and stuff like that. But to go in and have to help people drag a dead animal out of a fire that burned up because of the fireworks, that's not a very pretty sight, and I just don't believe that there is a safe and sane firework. It'd be like the difference between a .410 shotgun and a double-barrel 12 gauge.
Anyone else? There's a motion and a second on the floor. We now understand shotguns very well.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco amending Title IX Fireworks, Section 920040, administrative citation issuance of the Norco Municipal Code to increase administrative fine amounts for the illegal use of fireworks, Code Amendment 2024-10.
Please vote. And motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Moving on to 6D, first reading ordinance number 1125, amending the Norco Municipal Code Title II, Chapter 2.06, City Council Salaries, increasing the compensation of City Council members, Code Amendment 2024-11. Attorney Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is brought back to make sure we have clarity and certainty regarding a motion that was made. So council members go out of pocket on many hard costs such as gas, food, supplies, childcare, which can be expensive. The biggest impact, however, is the soft cost of time with the meetings, readings, events, volunteerism. There was a recent estimate that council members spend 30 hours a week to be a council member. No one makes money as a council member. No one went to get elected to become a council member in order to make money. But the thought is that council members shouldn't have to lose money. Compensation hasn't been increased since 2001. This item seeks to increase council compensation. Under the government code, a council may enact an ordinance providing a salary that is initially set based on population. In 2001, the council set compensation at $550 per month. There has been significant inflation since 2001. To keep up, the law provides for a 5% straight line increase since the last adjustment. It has been 23 years since the last adjustment, which equates to 115%. That leads to an adjusted compensation of $1,182.50 per month. Council compensation surveys were done. The Riverside Council average is up on the screen. For the compensation portion, the salary portion, it's $1,301.97 is the average. So with this increase, the council would still be below average. And I am available for any questions.
Yes.
Colin? Why are you bringing this back? Your report was exactly what we did at the last council meeting that we voted on. And it was a 2-2, one abstain vote.
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem. And I went back and looked at the video, and there was a significant discussion of the rationale for a vote, followed by a call for question, followed by a person moving the item, and thereafter some thought of what was the actual motion on the floor. So we're bringing this back just to make sure there was clarity to what the exact motion was that was voted on.
Yeah, this was following a discussion with another council person. I wanted to make sure there was clarity because the motion was intended that there would be no phones, there would be no mileage, there would be no any of the things that actually cost us money when you use them. It would just be a straightforward, and then the other part of it, so there wouldn't be any of that. And then the other piece of that is that well, that's the reason I brought it back. And then the other thing, I want to make sure there was clarity that you're actually not giving them a raise. What you're doing is you're not tying future council's hands. If you don't do it before an election, you won't be able to do this for another 2 years. And one of the things I'm always afraid of, especially as we look at a changing of the guard, is that are we an elite institution where only people that can afford to be on council are on council? So, for example, we just saw a ton of kids, and these parents may not be able to be on council without covering some of the costs. You also have issues in terms of, you know, just being on council. Let's say you have animals, you got to take care of animals, you got to pay for that, you got to do those kind of things. And so, but the real reason that I did object was, one, I knew there was some confusion, but one, it's just the straight increase. There's nothing else from this point on, or if we voted in the next year, who's ever on council, no phone, none of those kinds of things. And so I just wanted to make sure we were clear on the motion. And that's why I brought it back, or asked to bring it back.
So this proposed payment of $1182, I would not be able to have a city phone. Right. I would not be able to write off any mileage.
Right.
You could write off your mileage, you can't get reimbursed for it, is what Mayor Bash is proposing.
Well, I could write it off on my
Yes.
taxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't be reimbursed from the city on it.
Now, if you needed a car to go to Desert Hot Springs for a Cal Cities event or something, obviously there you could use a city car because that's a long way to go.
I could take a city car to Engels Park if I wanted to then. Right?
Good.
That's all I had. I didn't mean anything by that comment, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking offense.
I do just have one question, because I had spoken with our city attorney, and then I also reached out to our IT. My experience in working with council members in other cities is that it's standard practice to have phones for a number of reasons, one of which it makes public records requests much more straightforward for council members who are just using a phone for official business. And there's also an issue of safety. Sadly, in this day and age, folks put people's addresses on the internet, and so in any other job that you would go, if there was some kind of equipment that you would be required to use, it would be provided to you. We get our iPads so that we can vote and do our research. Certainly, anyone who's on the council does not have to take the raise, does not have to take a salary, does not have to use a city phone. And so just wanted to ask, and is my understanding correct that that really is a best practice for public records requests to have a device that is just used for council business?
The Public Records Act does cover any writing concerning the public's business. It can cover a writing on your personal phone. So it is certainly cleaner to have a separate phone to say that all of my public business communications are on this phone. All of my private communications are on this phone.
Thank you.
Any public comments?
No public comments, Mayor.
Closing. Bring it back for discussion, motion, whatever. Yeah, please.
So Colin, when I was reading the report and the ordinance, I'm not seeing the same thing. I don't see exclusions in this ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct. It doesn't.
Okay, just making sure I'm understanding.
But
So the motion would have to include such
yes,
things.
it has to include all of that.
So I want to bring up another point that Councilmember Newton brought up when this item came for the first read regarding retirement impact and CalPERS. And CalPERS can be eliminated for future council members. That can be a significant cost to the city depending on where a council member has been employed or will be employed. For instance, if a council member were to continue on as a county supervisor, a county supervisor currently makes about $280,000. If they serve enough years and then retire, that goes quite up, right? From the 500, or if our adjustment is 1,100 to $280,000. And some of that, my understanding is some of that burden then comes to the city based on years of service to provide for that huge increase in salary that someone could have. So, you know, I agree with Mayor Bash in terms of right now the ordinance says that a council member should not have to provide anything that is required to do the job. And so what he is proposing and what I agree with is to say there's no reimbursement for mileage because currently that is ambiguous. Our code clearly says that we shouldn't have to pay for anything that is required to do our job, which would include driving to meetings or events, but that we would change it to say that your monthly compensation covers your mileage to all of your events, and to create a new tier for any council members elected in 2024 and on CalPERS, that there would a benefit that we would not be paying in, they would not be paying in, the city would not be paying in for that as well. But to leave an option for a phone because of safety and public records requests.
And along with that, really all I'm trying to do is I don't even know if future council will vote this in. I'm just trying not to handcuff future councils. I want to make sure that none of those things are in there. I personally think that even the phone, I mean, if you guys like the phone, that's great. But otherwise, I just think just covering the costs so that we're not handcuffing future councils until 2026. That's really the entire purpose. So the motion would be, I guess you could add a phone or not add a phone, but everything else would be gone. Just the straight additional funding. That's it.
So I'm confused. Last time we voted on this, there was no mention it included a phone. Then earlier in the conversation, you said phones are out. You pay for that by yourself. Now you're saying phones are in.
No, I'm not.
On the motion that's made and how we
No,
vote. That's what we're discussing, what should be in or out.
It's still open to discussion. For me, I've never used a city phone, so I'm okay not having a city phone. But I think that's just kind of how I would see it. But, you know, she's saying she wants it. I'm okay with the motion that you have nothing that's attached to it. This is just something to help cover costs. And it's more importantly, it's just a placeholder. One of my real concerns is that, you know, councils, we need younger people, or we need people that maybe they have kids, which is really important, especially, you know, just in terms of being connected to the community in different ways. I just don't want to become an elite institution where only people that can afford to be here are here. So, and again, I'm not even saying it'll be voted in. It's just a placeholder. So I will make the motion, no phones, no mileage, just straight addition, and then next year we'll deal with it and vote for it or not vote for it. That's just kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm just trying to make it a placeholder for who is ever sitting in these seats come January, February, March, whatever. That's all I'm trying to do.
I have a concern. Let me ask you, Colin, that to me this is bounced back and forth, okay? When we had our policies and procedures on our ethics and things like that, and we ended up voting, and then at the end of the day, we voted that we have no policy, right? This is almost seeming like the same thing to me. I want to stick what our vote was, or what my vote was the last meeting. So I'm just kind of like if I say yes to phone, no to phone, right? Yes to reimbursable, no to reimbursable. It just kind of seems like we're all over the place.
No, what happened is that the motion was misstated. The motion very clearly said no phone, no mileage, none of those things, because the cost of actually overseeing those is, I came from the old days when.
Want some clarity.
That's all, yeah.
All right. You're proposing a pay increase with no phone, no mileage.
No mileage, and actually, I'm proposing the placeholder so that you'll have to vote on it again next year, but basically the placeholder would be no phone, no mileage, no incidentals of any kind over and above that, what you could draw down on from the city.
Incidentals, we need to make sure that that's clarified, because there are of course the iPads, you need those to vote, so we clearly have to keep those going in the chargers. There's reimbursement for miles within the city, reimbursement for miles outside the city.
No miles whatsoever, nothing.
But otherwise, as far as incidentals, I would assume that if somebody went to Desert Hot Springs for a conference, they'd get reimbursed for their hotel.
That's kind of I mean, I've never done that either, but the point is, yes, I guess
You've
you
gone
could
to a
do
conference and stayed in a hotel.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've stayed in a hotel, but like meals and things, all those things, I mean, I declare them on the IRS, but I've never charged the city for them.
Because we do have an expense and reimbursement policy.
Yeah, if you're going as a council member to a conference, the city covers the cost of those conferences just as it does for staff. That's your job that you're going to do. Who can,
That's a little bit different, so.
Oh, and I have another question because I'm reading the ordinance and the mayor said that it's a placeholder. The way that I am reading this ordinance, it would take effect automatically the month following the date when the term of office commences. Again, I'm reading that correctly. It would, if this ordinance is passed as written, it's not a placeholder. The salary increase would take effect.
That's
Correct.
right.
Okay.
That's correct. We could amend the ordinance to require a further vote.
Yeah, that's part of the motion. I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, and that would be part of the motion
Well,
that
so
it is
my
placeholder.
understanding, just from reading the agenda, Kevin, is that the number one, there's not really a motion on the floor, but what's been brought to us is an ordinance to increase salary compensations commencing the month after the election period. Like, that's what I am reading as what we're discussing right now. So if you want those other things, I feel like you're gonna have to give a list to Colin. Colin's gonna have to rewrite the ordinance and bring it back, because that is not even close to what's on the table for us this evening.
Well, we're out of time. That's our problem. We're out
So-
of time.
so-
Because the motion was pretty clear, and I mean, I don't know how else, I mean, I've said the things, how more clear can I make it?
well,
But
you
we're out
haven't
of time.
officially made a motion. So I'm going to make a motion. And on a first read, you can make adjustments. Those come back at the second read. The motion can be defeated on the first or the second read, as we saw the last time. As someone who's had their personal address posted multiple times on the internet, asking somebody to get a phone to be able to do their job is just not something that I'm willing to do. I move to adjust the council salaries for the next council so that they will be paid the same amount that when Herb Higgins was mayor in 2001, they will be able to buy as many things as the council was able to buy in 2001 with the salary that we get now. With that, I would like to amend the ordinance that's been proposed. So my motion includes that we get rid of mileage reimbursement within and outside of the city, and that we tier off new council members elected in 2024 and on for CalPERS, because that is a much more significant cost savings for the city in the long term.
And that it's not automatic, it's something that would have to be voted on and determined in the next council cycle.
That's a substitute motion.
Yeah, that's not what I am proposing,
Okay.
because any council could bring this up and change it just like anything that we pass. Anyone can bring that up and get it changed. We're changing that for that council. I am not going to put it on that council to keep having these horrible, awful, awkward conversations. We are the only ones who can adjust our salary. We've had this conversation again. There was not clarity on the motion. The motion has been made to address some of the concerns that I heard from council members.
Can I clarify this motion that's on the floor?
Please.
Right now, I have Councilmember Alman has made a motion to approve that council for this next cycle, which begins January 1st, they would get the salary as in the current ordinance with amendments of getting rid of mileage within and outside of the city and tier off new council members for CalPERS. And it's effective this cycle. That would be effective January 1st.
Yeah, we voted in, but by law, it doesn't go into effect until a new council is seated. Yes.
Is that correct, Colin? Is that correct, Councilmember Bash, or Mayor Bash, excuse me?
In terms of, what are you asking?
Was that, I just clarified the motion.
That was her motion, yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that that's the motion that's on the floor.
As far as I know.
Okay. Is there a second? No second. The motion dies for lack of second.
Man, that is so disappointing. It's just so disappointing. There's young folks and there's people single moms, and we're making sure that they cannot serve. It's just very disappointing to me.
So I just want to speak to that real quickly, because I know that was brought up in some of the public comments that we're excluding younger people, we're excluding people of color, or minority, we're excluding people of low socioeconomic. So I was trying to grasp that particular item, because if you want to go to a conference, it's paid. If you want to use a city vehicle, it's paid. If you want a phone, it's paid, or reimbursed. I should say reimbursed, not paid, but you can have a city vehicle for any uses that you would like to do. Like we already set up here, conferences and things that we attend are reimbursed. A lot of the city events put on by groups typically give passes and VIP passes for attendance because they want council members at their events. So I'm honestly asking, as somebody that started on the council with young children, why a lower pay rate is excluding people.
So I would say a couple of things. One, if you take the average of 30 hours a week spent preparing for meetings, coming to meetings, so forth, if you were to take that 30 hours and multiply it times 4 weeks and then divide it by our salary, it's about $4.20 an hour. So we're asking people to do a job for $4.20 an hour. When you have young children, I have young children, the costs are not the same as they were 10, 20 years ago. To put a child just in one season of rec soccer is $230. That's almost half of my city council salary. To go to the fair, to buy buttons, right? Times, I do have 4 children, but if you multiply that by 6, if I need childcare to come to a meeting, which my entire first year on the council, I did not make any money, I lost money because my husband worked at night. It costs $20 an hour now for childcare. Back then I paid $18 an hour, and people say, just go find someone, go find a senora, go find, a young kid that'll babysit for $5 an hour. I don't know where they are. And I don't have grandparents, unfortunately. My mom has Parkinson's. My husband's mom, who's wonderful, died at a younger age. We don't have, not everybody has a village where you just have people who can take your kids or who can take your animals if you have to go to a conference and you need someone to come and feed your horses or take care of things. If you use the city health insurance and you put anybody else on it, that takes up a lot of your salary as well. And so, if we look at folks who are younger, or for instance, a single mom, the reason that I'm able to be at everything is because I do have a person at home who's able to take care of the kids, but that's not always the case. And that money, it doesn't go very far anymore. My power bill was $560. So, I just think it precludes people because they could go do something else when this is really important and meaningful work. And so the law that was passed in Sacramento was for that reason, because if we don't give some sort of parity in pay, we're naturally telling people that you have to make a certain amount of money. You know, I understand you said like we get tickets to the rodeo, but we often get asked to donate and to pay for tickets to things. And that can be hard because I think we don't have a fund like the supervisors. They have a fund. They literally have a fund in which they can say, yes, I want to sponsor this nonprofit and I want to sponsor this nonprofit. There is no fund for which we can sponsor those things. And it is so wonderful and amazing, and I'm grateful that people have the funds to do that, but not everybody does. And so the impact that it has on a younger person or a single parent or somebody with small children right now, it's not the same impact that it's having on someone who, you know, is retired or has a different income, and just the mortgages, just the bills, right? I wish I could have bought my house for what some of y'all bought yours for, but it's not cheap. And I got a good price on my house compared to prices now, right? So, you know, to buy a car now with interest rate, it's just everything is very expensive. And that $500, I adopted a dog from the animal shelter. That was $200. Like that's almost, you know, that's quite a bit that's gone. So there's not a lot extra. We give up a lot to do this job and we do it willingly, but being compensated to be able to do that job, to be able to take your kids out to, you know, the fair and be able to buy them all the wristbands and do all that stuff and not have that be another, you know, extra. It would be nice to have that. It's nice to have that. I think it does encourage and it allows just for people to have a little extra opportunity to participate in the system. And certainly nobody, again, has to take the salary. And, you know, the supervisors just increased their rate. And one of them is still on his first, you know, amount because he doesn't need that money. And that's wonderful and noble, and I'm grateful for that. But there's nothing, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with folks who would need a little more just to adjust for inflation.
Yeah, one of the issues too is just sometimes when people go away for a weekend to go to a conference, they got to pay for their animals to be cared for. Let's say they're single, and so it's just things like that that I thought it would be good to try to cover those things. But more than anything, I would insist that it be a placeholder. But call to question. Where are we at, Colin?
Robin, what was your question?
Like how the pay is a barrier to serving. So items like childcare and pet care are the takeaways that I had from the answer.
I would just add any time away if someone needs to take time off from their job, which there's 2 council members, you know, when I was on RICRA the first year, I had to take my personal time every single time I went, and there was no stipend for that board. So that's a sacrifice, you know. At least if there's some salary that's kind of helping with that, if you're taking your time, then you have, it kind of balances out. But, you know, for folks who are working, who don't have a flexible job, an executive job, that is also a factor, right? That they're taking time off. They have to take that time off.
Where are we at?
The motion died. Did we call the motion dead?
The motion.
There was no second.
There was no second, so the motion died for lack of a second, but we haven't taken a vote. It's a council self-regulation at this point. There should be a finality, but no vote's been taken, so if a council member wants to make a motion, there's nothing in Roberts or anything else that's going to prevent us from doing that.
Well, the motion I would make is that it has to be voted on next year. It serves as a placeholder. It does not include phone, does not include mileage, and it is simply straight covering of pay, and then the next council would vote on it and go through the same thing. And that would be my motion.
Are you going to eliminate CalPERS in your motion?
Sure, if you want.
I would recommend you not have the council vote at the next session, just because that opens it up to we didn't pass it tonight.
No. What I mean by that is that next year, it doesn't automatically kick into place. It would have to be put in a motion. For me, all of this is just a placeholder.
Then why are we doing this? Because then they could just do the same thing in well, then they can't, no, because if we vote on it, it goes into place, and then what would the vote be? Because we have to put it in place before the election. So if it comes back, what are they voting on? If they make a change, that doesn't go in effect till the next election. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you just want them to be able to say, yes, thank you for the
Yeah, it's
adjusting our salary for inflation?
It's better to rely on the fact that the council can vote to get rid of it.
Okay.
Colin, if he's saying that the next council can vote on it next year, why are we having this discussion? We voted on it the last time we were here.
We have to pass it before the election. Otherwise, it has to wait until the next election cycle. That's my concern with having to have a third vote after the election.
The way he is talking, they could go back in here and vote on it next year.
They can vote to remove it. They can't vote to increase it.
All right, I still don't know why we got to do this again.
Okay, well, the reason is because I don't believe that we voted on the motion as I presented it. I believe, yeah, and many times, many. And I did. Yeah, I did. I was very clear. Go back and look at the tape. I talked about all the things that would not be in the motion. And I didn't realize until I talked to another council person that they didn't realize that it was the motion as it stood. That was not the motion as I presented it. All right.
I'll second your motion.
But without the clause that we vote on it a third time, correct, Council?
Right.
Correct. I would like to be
Colin?
done voting on this item.
Colin, I need clarification on, I'm not understanding the way the motion was just stated by Mayor Bash. Approval serves as a placeholder. I'm not understanding that.
So we have a substitute motion by Councilmember Alleman that got rid of the placeholder language and it got rid of the third vote language. There'll be no phone, no mileage, and
Eliminating the CalPERS.
So now I need a second for my substitute motion.
yes, that's correct.
Kevin? Thank you.
No phone, no mileage, eliminate CalPERS.
That's what
Motion
I
and
have
second.
at this time. And it's effective January.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry.
For future councils, CalPERS, for future councils.
And the virtual, so that would be anybody voted in this election would receive those.
Who is not a current council member.
That is not a current council member, correct? Please vote.
All right, moving on. City Council and
The
staff.
motion, excuse me, Mayor, the motion was defeated.
Yeah. City Council staff communications, city staff, anything? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to give an update regarding the Hamner Bridge. Hopefully, if everything goes well, and the contractor's been doing a lot of night closure work to try to get the bridge open by the ceremony on Monday for that honoring former Mayor Hannah on that over at JCD Park. It looks like we'll have a bridge open in both directions on Saturday morning, assuming everything goes well.
Saturday or?
Saturday. So, knock on wood, hopefully that's the case. But again, we don't know with this contractor, but they're working hard. We're trying to make everything happen. So certainly the goal is try to have it by Monday morning, but they're looking at trying to have it open by Saturday morning. So appreciate everybody's patience on this process and trying to do it. All the closures have been going on, but they've been very necessary. Otherwise, it would not be open probably till the end of September at this point. So we appreciate everybody's patience and the fact that we had all these closures over and over and over again on Hamner. We're doing it at night, trying to get things done, but we have gotten a lot done. And so hopefully Saturday morning, everybody will be able to drive north and south on that bridge.
Anyone else? City Attorney,
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
City Manager. Berwin.
I'd like to get something agendized here if we can, about the earliest that we can put up campaign signs. I mean, they ugly up a city just about like graffiti, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think they need to be up 2 or 3 months before an election. I think 6 weeks would be plenty of time. So I'd like to make a motion to put that on the agenda to discuss it in the future here. Because if you look around now, the city's already got ugly in the last few days with campaign signs everywhere, and it's just gonna get worse.
Question, does that apply to congressional? Does that apply?
Every campaign sign that there is. And a lot of people are upset from the old group back in the day when people used plywood for campaign signs. They use cardboard now, and a lot of people back in them days went and took the plywood and patched their stall walls with them. So I need to make a motion for that?
That was your motion?
Okay.
And I need a second? Please vote for discussion to be brought back regarding campaign signs. And motion passes. Thank you.
Greg?
Two things. Lisette, I wanted to compliment you on your providing us the information, what you did with our council questions of staff, like on the consent calendar, and providing those answers to those questions before the meeting. I think if we keep doing that, that'll help speed up the meetings.
Thank you.
But I appreciate the information to have those answers to our various questions. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, so that's a group effort.
Okay. And Chad, just quick question on the bridge, based on what you said. I'll put it under the premise of I'm completely done except for finishing. After it's open, what remains to be finished on the bridge and the time frames?
Pretty much, other than the surface you're going to drive on being available, everything else still needs to be finished. So sadly, but there's a lot to be done. In as far as finishing up, it's basically just going to be drivable. They've got to finish up the lighting. They've got to finish up all the railing that's going to be on both sides of the bridge. They've got to do coating. They've got to do landscaping. There's a lot to be done. This push was just to make it drivable by the ceremony on Monday.
So pedestrian, equestrian, surfacing, that needs to be done. Is there any time frame for completion?
I wouldn't guess on that because there's a lot of issues behind that. So right now the focus is just get the road open, get it usable, but there's still a lot of ancillary things that need to be done, and that is going to be problematic in certain areas because of subcontractor supplies, issues that the contractor has. But
got it.
We're pushing.
Thank you.
I'm just happy we're not going to have to stand up.
Catherine?
Do you, Dana, have a copy of the resolution that outlines our rules of order for meetings?
Yes, I do. Would you like me to provide that via memo?
We don't have one on hand.
No, I don't have one here, not the resolution with me.
Okay, I will have that the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Robin? Couple of things. First off, I don't know how to do it, but Don that spoke about the drain, I guess reach out to him again. I've explained to him that the contract was signed. I think he's reached out to Berwin. I don't know what else to tell the gentleman. I mean,
and I know that he's reached out to the council members. We've had discussions with him before. We've explained everything that we're doing. The same thing we told council members. We are making good progress on that. There'll be an agenda item next next council meeting to approve the easement. We finally got that signed by the resident that was agreed to put the infrastructure through their property.
Which there was a great deal of hesitation,
There was all kinds of
cajoling that we had to get that because he was upset.
But we've been dealing with this and trying to create a solution for everybody, not just his property, for over 3 years now. And now we've gotten the key things out of the way. The design is underway. We hope will be done realistically maybe 90 days to the point where we can maybe go out to bid. We likely wouldn't be in construction until after the winter time, just because it creates problems if we bid it too soon. So February, March timeframes what we'd probably be shooting for. So it is in the works, and any time and every time that he is called, we have answered all his questions. So he's very well. The real issue is he wants a solution now, which we understand, but we're now getting closer to that reality.
Thank you. And then Holly was talking about an ad hoc committee. I'd like to agendize a discussion about the upcoming proposed Olympic site in Temecula and the creation of an ad hoc committee. I guess we have to discuss it. We can't just form an ad hoc committee, but to prepare for those Olympics that are coming, it would be a natural fit.
Please vote.
Okay.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Newton? Yes? Okay. Councilmember Hannah? Motion passes.
And then in talking to Alma, we had thought for a moment that the property across the street from the Sierra property was R1. One of the things that I'd like to look at, I don't think we need to agendize it, we just need to kind of know about it, is that our R1 properties, I want to find out what the protections they have are against SB 9 and SB 10 per the charter, because they are not in the historic overlay. So I'd like to if we have to be proactive, I'd like to figure those out. And then the other piece is that should the bond pass and they purchase the property at the corner of Parkridge and Hamner, I think we need to keep that on our radar, because the OCP property that makes all the concrete stuff, I happen to see the project as they're starting to propose it, but if that college area gets rejuvenated, that corner, Parkridge and Hamner, it may be a game changer for that entire area. So what I'd actually like to do is meet mayor to mayor and one council person and meet with the Corona and maybe talk about what kind of things, because they see that as a rejuvenation of that entire area. So I'd like to maybe set up a meeting, maybe city managers, just somehow have a couple council people, probably Jackie Casillas, because she's the one that's pushing that. And then I want to close this meeting. One of the things that the Veterans Committee is very aware of is that 22 veterans a day kill themselves. That's 8,030. It's an unreliable number, but 5,540 of those are above 50 and above. We recently lost Aaron Osorio, who was a Norco High graduate, and he took his life. And on Sunday at 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock at the American Legion, they will be having a breakfast to help raise money for the family. When this happens, the DoD benefits are in limbo. And so, but he did suffer, and he just suddenly did this. So in honor of Aaron Osorio, I'd like to close our meeting. Thank you.